Okay, for today's lesson we're going to talk about how timelines work and how we can use them to show events in history. There are several ways that you can make a timeline, but today I'm going to show you two examples, a traditional timeline and then a flowchart timeline. Now on a traditional timeline, you can make it kind of like you make a number line in math. You have an arrow to the left that shows you that time keeps going backwards to whenever the beginning of time is, which we don't know. And the arrow to the right shows us that time is always moving forward. Time is not stopped. Now, historians use Christianity to help measure time, since that's the most followed religion in the world. So even though we're over here in the year 2020, the beginning of this numbering sequence started all the way with 1, and this time period is known as AD. Each year prior to the birth of Jesus, which is 1 AD, is known as the BC era. So there's 1 BC, 2 BC, and it keeps on going even, millions and millions of years prior. Now, BC stands for before Christ, because each year happened before the birth of Jesus. AD actually does not mean after death. That's what a lot of people think, but that is incorrect, because Jesus was not born in the same year and died in the same year. That doesn't make any sense. AD comes from a Latin phrase. And that Latin phrase is Anno Domini, which translated from Latin means in the year of our Lord. So from the birth of Jesus in 1 AD to even today in 2020, which we don't put it down here, but we are still in the AD era, that's all in the year of Jesus. Even after Jesus' death, according to Christianity, it's still in the time frame of Jesus. Whereas everything before, even going all the way back to the age of the dinosaurs and whatnot, is the BC era. Now sometimes when you're reading books, especially like school textbooks, they use a different way to tell you the eras. So that way, they're not just using Christianity as to not offend multiple people, because not everyone follows Christianity. Or if it's something school-related, they're trying to keep, religion and school separate. So instead of BC, you may see BCE, which means before the Common Era, and then CE, which you probably figure that out, means Common Era. It's the same thing as BC and AD, the numbers match up, you just might see it labeled as something different. Another type of timeline you might see uses the flowchart method. And in this instance, you'll see a series of boxes with arrows that signify which direction our events are heading in. You might see it kind of flow around like a snake, kind of, zigzag through. And so on. So if we were making a timeline, like let's say for United States history, and if we started with the 1600s, inside this box we could say England creates the colonies. And then if your next event was, let's say, 1776, you could put details in the box such as the colonies declare independence. Depending on how many events you wanted to show, you would have to make that amount of boxes. So if you had 11 events, you can make 11 boxes. If you only wanted to show 4 periods of time, you can make 4 boxes. But you shouldn't have any blank boxes left over. Everything should line up with what you're trying to show us. And before we end, going back to traditional timelines, whenever you're making a timeline based on whatever type of information you're trying to show us, a good idea, whenever you start, let's kind of use the same example as earlier. If we did 1600s, then we could write our information above the spot on the timeline. And then if we did 1776, we could write our information down below. When you're making a timeline like this, it's a good idea to separate your information. Obviously, you'll have actual words instead of squiggles here. I'm just showing you as an example. But if you alternate your information, it keeps everything from running together. So you don't want your sentences to kind of combine and make it look messy. This helps you stay organized and makes timelines easier to read. At a point in time, we will start making timelines in class, and you can use one of these two methods to make them. But we'll save that for another time.